The 2015 Chevrolet Tahoe and GMC Yukon are the best SUVs for you if you wonder what it might be like had the dinosaurs not gone extinct. Full-size body-on-frame SUVs are the fossils of the automotive world. Built like trucks, they belong to an age before crossovers, when weight and mass ruled. But the Tahoe and nearly identical Yukon have continued to evolve. Indeed, the all-new 2015 versions boast a level of refinement and a range of features entirely appropriate for the 21st century. That's true too for their even larger brethren, the 2015 Chevrolet Suburban and GMC Yukon XL. Returning as well are the upscale Yukon Denali and Denali XL, sort of Escalades with taste. Speaking of which, Cadillac's SUV flagship is also redesigned, again using the Tahoe and Yukon as its foundation. But for all the new technology and luxury, there's no escaping genealogy. Beneath the finishing school veneer, these are still monsters. There is a place for them in today's world, but is that place your driveway? I'm Chuck Giametta. Join me for a car preview video review of the 2015 Chevrolet Tahoe and GMC Yukon. Redesigned for the first time since model year 2007, these SUVs get crisp new styling and a smartly revamped interior that again holds up to 8 passengers. New features include push-button ignition, lane departure, frontal collision, and cross-traffic alerts, and an airbag between the front seats to keep noggins apart in a side impact. A choice of rear-wheel drive or full-time four-wheel drive with low-range gearing returns, and a 5.3-liter V8 remains the mainstay engine, but it has 355 horsepower, a gain of 35, and 383 pound-feet of torque, an increase of 48. The Yukon Denali retains a 6.2-liter V8, shared with the Escalade. It gains 17 horsepower to 420 and 43 pound-feet of torque for a total of 460. All these trucks again use a 6-speed automatic transmission. It has a tow-haul mode and a steering column shift lever that includes a button for manual gear selection. It's hard to overstate how much these big SUVs mean to General Motors' bottom line. Most have base prices in the $50,000 to $60,000 range. Denali's top $70,000, and they account for 60% of Yukon sales. And boy, do buyers love options. Profit margins are huge, and the competition is relatively weak. Just about any way you care to define the full-size SUV market, this family of GM trucks accounts for about 2 out of every 3 sold. The Chevy Suburban and Tahoe alone have a 50% share. Tahoe and Yukon continue to share some engineering with GM's big pickup trucks, though their frames are not identical. That these SUVs have frames is part of their identity, of course. Most SUVs are crossovers with lighter weight, car-like construction in which body and frame are a single unit. That's good for comfort, handling, and fuel economy, but it can't match the truck-type SUVs for heavy towing or hauling. Fellow throwbacks include the Ford Expedition, Toyota Sequoia, and Nissan Armada, though they at least have independent rear suspensions. The GM entries all use a bulkier, solid rear axle. More on that later. GM stylists do a reasonable job giving the 2015 Tahoe and Yukon distinct identities. Appealing to a more affluent audience, the Yukon gets this rather European-style grille and business-like square headlamps. Tahoe and Suburban celebrate their Cheviness with a wide chrome grille, fussier wraparound headlamps, and a hood with sharper creases. Differences in back are limited to tail lamp lenses. Yukon Denalis, meanwhile, are distinguished by a polished, modern art grille, more bright work, and exclusive xenon headlamps. They're fancier inside, too, with real wood trim to go along with premium leather seating. Already among the largest vehicles on the road, the 2015 Tahoe and Yukon are some 2 inches longer and an inch wider than their 2007 to 2014 predecessors. The roofline is about 2 inches lower, though, for better aerodynamics. Compared to the Tahoe and the regular length Yukon, Suburban and Yukon XL are nearly 2 feet longer overall and 14 inches longer in wheelbase. They have a sliver more legroom in the second row seat, usefully more in the third row, and nearly 30% more cargo volume. At almost 19 feet stem to stern, however, they're the longest passenger vehicles on the road. Think about that. Then look at your garage or consider your local mall parking lot. Tahoe, Suburban, and Yukon use the same basic dashboard, and it's a terrific new design. Contemporary, functional, and handsome. Inspired by watch faces, the gauges are shared with the pickup trucks and have a cool precision look. Bluetooth is standard, as are 5 USB ports and a half-dozen power outlets. All models have a central dashboard display. On most, it's this 8-inch touchscreen that hosts the available navigation system. It powers open to a hidden compartment, just one of a small boat's worth of bins, pockets, and beverage holders. Interior materials deserve special praise. Padded surfaces abound, and up-level Tahoes and Yukons like this SLT model have lots of dressy stitching. In both lines, all but the entry-level models come standard with leather upholstery. Our nitpicks include some details that seem out of scale in a vehicle this large. The four-wheel drive switch is rather dainty, and in a bout of aerodynamics, the side mirrors are just too small to provide optimal outward vision. Despite the new bodies, wheelbase is unaltered. Wheelbase is the distance between the front and rear axles and key to a vehicle's legroom. So even though front seaters get about an inch more headroom, legroom in the second and third rows is pretty much unchanged. It's a 22-inch step up into the cabin, but once aboard you'll enjoy generous front seat space. For the second row you have a choice of a bench or buckets depending on the model. The rear doors open wider than before, and room is good with more knee clearance thanks to reshaped front seat backs. These second row seat backs recline, but the seats themselves don't slide fore and aft as in some rivals, and that third row is much tighter than these dinosauric dimensions might imply. Blame that on a floor bulged to accommodate that really big beam rear axle. Third rows in the Tahoe and regular length Yukon really only accommodate children. With their longer wheelbase, Suburban and Yukon XL provide 10 additional inches of third row legroom, but that intrusive floor still puts a squeeze on foot space, and in no model does the third row seatback recline. Sequoia, Expedition, and Armada treat their rearmost passengers better. Frankly, so do the smaller Chevy Traverse and GMC Acadia crossovers. Cargo volume is a plus, although as you can see on the Tahoe and regular length Yukon, there isn't a lot with the third row up. New this year are power folding third row seats and automatic flip and fold second row seats. Those are real conveniences, although you do have to manually unflip the second row. To create this flat load surface and to clear the spare tire, GM installs this 6-inch platform. Unfortunately, it elevates the load floor to more than 33 inches above the ground. That can make for some heavy lifting. That shelf cuts into cargo space, which shrinks about 12% with this redesign. Still full those rear seat backs, and there's plenty of room in both body styles. That said, Suburban and Yukon XL have more than twice the space behind the third row as their regular length counterparts, and a load floor that can swallow objects over 6 feet long. The 5.3-liter V8's horsepower and torque are both up 10% for 2015. This latest generation of GM's small block has direct fuel injection and cylinder deactivation. Both help improve fuel economy despite the added muscle. Acceleration is smooth, responsive, and robust, especially in the 420 horsepower Denali. At a maximum 8,500 pounds, tow ratings are impressive, if only about mid-pack for this class. City and highway fuel economy ratings are up slightly, and the combined ratings climb by 1 mile per gallon to 18 with both rear and four-wheel drive. That's still thirsty, of course, but a significant 3 to 4 miles per gallon better than those competitors we've been talking about. And while the Tahoe, Suburban, and Yukon may be big as libraries, they're quiet as libraries too. No rival better isolates you from wind, road, or engine noise. The 2015 redesign brings electric power steering. That's a fuel-saving measure as well. We like its weight and natural feel around town, but find the steering too light at highway speeds. Nothing lightweight about the way these SUVs ride or handle. They're stable cruisers, but in anything more than the gentlest changes of direction, they're ponderous and plagued by body lean. Denali's and top-line Tahoes and Suburbans come with GM's magnetic shock absorbers for better body control, but no model has a cushioned ride. Bumps send shudders through the structure, and they're amplified as you increase wheel size from the base 18s to the 20s standard on the Denali and available on most other models. Don't fall for the Denali's optional 22s unless you crave punishment. Nothing in this class is really inexpensive. Chevy says the typical Suburban goes out the door for around $60 grand. Each brand offers 3 levels of trim, and you probably could find a Tahoe or Yukon for under $50,000. But midline Tahoe LTs and Yukon SLTs are in the mid to upper 50s and quickly into the 60s once you start adding $3,300 sunroof and navigation packages and vanities like the $1,400 20-inch wheels. Four-wheel drive adds $3 grand across the board. Yukons are priced some $3,000 above their closest Tahoe and Suburban counterparts. They come with a bit of gear that's optional on some of the Chevys, front and rear park assist and tri-zone climate control, for example, but mostly you're paying for whatever prestige is associated with the GMC badge. Some buyers in this class rationalize their purchase by insisting they need the room or hauling ability. Some don't feel the need to justify anything. Did the Stegosaurus make excuses? For more on this and other cars, trucks, and SUVs, go to carpreview.com.